Should women be paid the same as men when it comes to professional boxing? Well, women are paid the same as men in professional boxing. Women have always been paid the same as men in professional boxing. In 3 weeks' time, Katie Taylor will be fighting Natasha Jonas. And if Katie Taylor, Natasha Jonas, if that fight generates the same number of customers as a Joshua fight, they will get paid approximately the same as Joshua would be, depending on the negotiating skills of their managers. Women get paid the same as men. They always have. And there is no evidence, zero evidence, that women actually get paid less than men. You know, if you're a woman and you arrange with some other woman to have a fight, and then you hire some company to sell the fight, and you sell 1 million tickets to that fight, you go to Eddie Hearn, you say, I've got a fight here, 1 million people want to pay money to watch it. You know, Eddie Hearn will pay you whatever the proper rate is. The important thing here is there is no evidence that women get paid less than men. None. Zero evidence. And the reason there's zero evidence is because women don't get paid less than men. Women get paid approximately the same. Now, if you go to the broader question of discrimination against women, there is this narrative that women are discriminated against in boxing and at the moment and in the past, that they were discriminated against. Now, when you talk about discrimination, you have to discriminate here, because there's nothing wrong with discrimination. We do it all the time. We do it every day of the week. It's a good thing. You know, if you've been to university, you'll probably get more money in a job than a person who left school at 15. Your employer will discriminate on the basis of your educational achievements. Discrimination is not bad. Discrimination is a normal part of life and a necessary part of life. The question is unfair discrimination. Unfair or unreasonable discrimination. Have women in boxing suffered unfair, unreasonable discrimination? Well, a lot of people say, oh yes, isn't it terrible how women were discriminated against? Well, let's take a simple example. You know, Katie Taylor's father did not want her to turn professional. He really didn't. And he was probably a typical sort of boxing man. So was Katie Taylor's father, insofar as he had influence over her, was he discriminating against her unfairly, unreasonably? Katie Taylor's father was shot. Somebody walked into the gym where he was and tried to shoot him. A few months before that, a group of men walked into another gym with automatic weapons and tried to kill whoever it was they were trying to kill. I can't remember. You know, maybe Katie Taylor's father had a point. You know, maybe it's not the sort of profession you want to get your daughter involved in. You know, the fact that, you know, it doesn't logically follow that Katie Taylor's father is a misogynist and is trying to put down women because he wasn't happy about his daughter turning a professional. He probably had very good reason not to want his daughter to turn professional. When you look at discrimination against women in boxing, if you're honest, if you're concerned with the truth, there's one thing you have to ask. You have to ask, why is this happening? Now, the narrative is that the reason women were discriminated against was that men had this power over women and men wanted to exclude women for their own selfish reasons. That's the narrative. But there's no evidence for that. There's no proof. There are very, 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 very good reasons why, let's say, when Katie Taylor first turned amateur, she had to dress up as a boy. She had to pretend she was a boy. Now, you might say that's dreadful discrimination. But you have to ask the question, why? Why is it that women weren't allowed into boxing? Was it because men in back rooms sort of plotted to keep men out, or to keep women out of boxing? Or was there some other reason? Why is it that historically women were excluded from boxing? The narrative is essentially because men are bad and men deliberately want to spoil everything for women. That's the narrative. But there's no evidence for that. None. Zero. You have to ask the question, why was this happening? Why is it that women were excluded from boxing? Why is it that somebody like Jane Couch had to go to court to whatever it was? I don't know the details there, but she had to go to court to get the right to box or be recognised. You have to ask the question, why did this situation exist? Well, why is it that in recent times women's boxing has started to become a reality? Well, it has a lot to do with birth control. Birth control. You know, the feminist movement, there's no evidence that the feminist movement have ever achieved anything with birth control. Birth control is what changed, what created, let's say, the modern liberated woman. It wasn't feminism, it was birth control. So you have to think about these things when you're talking about discrimination against women in boxing. You know, up until the 1960s, most women got married and they had a relatively large number of children by today's standards. Most women were pregnant a fair proportion of their lives. Think about it. You know, most women back in the 50s, and I remember the 50s and the early 60s, the vast majority of women would have been totally opposed to women boxing. You have to think about these things. Things happen for a reason. And if you want to believe that it's all about these misogynists, these backward, ignorant, bad men excluding women, you know, if you want to go along with that narrative, well, that's fine. But there's no evidence for that. None. I'll come back to this subject again.